We're just going to wait a couple more minutes to make sure that as the late comers they're speaking. Okay, just give a couple minutes.
I thought you knew. You said there was someone coming.
I was just told to sign up.
Congratulate Nigel. We've been doing these innovation meetups for the last, since January, so we're on 7th month and it's beaten the numbers until now. So we've got a bigger audience here. But thank you for coming. If it's your first time to the Innovation Centre, we've been here since last October. We're an incubator for startups and scale-ups, and we offer subsidised support across all aspects of business. So if you are a business looking for support, or somebody that you know is interested and would like some support in their business, they've got a new idea, they're not quite sure how to get that idea off the ground, then please come to us and make sure you're on our mailing list as well. We're very excited to have Nigel here today talking about Croydon and the tech city that we are becoming. Over to you, Nigel.
Thanks, Sabra. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we doing today? Good. Excellent. I need to gauge my audience. How many Croydoners do we have here? Excellent. That's a good balance. So 2/3 of the room. So basically, what I'm going to do today, it's a little bit freeform. So by that I mean I'm intending on talking us through both the kind of Croydon story. So I know a lot of people have heard that before, but also talk about how you can get involved, and that's both in terms of the kind of Croydon Tech City movement, but then also if you run a business locally, or if you're thinking about bringing a business here or something like that, what are the type of opportunities that you can take advantage of to come to Croydon and be part of the growing tech cluster here. Now, as I go through today, so like I said, I realise that we haven't even made much of a PR thing about this, but it's actually the fourth year anniversary of Croydon Tech City this month. So I guess I've been around for a while now. And like I said, it's been a very exciting story. It's grown from 25 people in a room in a small cafe down in South Croydon to what has moved up to quite literally there's thousands of people involved, there's businesses, there's corporates, there's governments, and it's all driven though by people. Now, before I go and jump into that story, are there any major requests for things you'd like me to specifically cover, or anything you feel is not covered by that general outline? Cool. Okay. So we always start off with this picture, and interesting, this picture is nearly 4 years old now. Now, it is fake, unfortunately. If you go to East Croydon, there isn't a sign that says Silicon Valley of South London. But if you have read anything by us, or if you've ever heard us talk before, that is one of the phrases that we most commonly use. Now, there's a little phrase up there which you guys might not be able to read from the back, but it says Croydon Tech City champions and inspires tech business skills and opportunities in South London. Now, that's kind of what our general mission statement is. That's one of the things that we aspire to do. The truth is that when we started this 4 years ago, there was already a decent amount of tech talent in Croydon, which is to say there were lots of businesses here. For example, this building itself, probably 1/3 to half the floors are actually tech businesses, and a decent amount of those guys were already here. So the top couple of us, we've got Natterbox, who are more recently moved to the borough, relatively speaking. We've got Dot Mailer, that's an AIM-listed business. There are already lots of tech businesses, but there are lots of tech people too. So Croydon is, for context, the largest borough in London. So there's something like 365,000 people who live here. If you look out of that window, I know that we just closed some of the blinds to make it easier to see. You'll see that there's a vast array of businesses that there's literally, you probably get to 500,000 people inclusive if you travel to Croydon for work and so on. So in the context of all that, we were saying, okay, you know what, there's a lot of potential for there to be a tech cluster here. How are we going to go about doing that? Now, as I talk today, if you want to tweet about us, or if you want to take pictures and ask questions through online type things, so at Croydon Tech City is the Twitter handle to follow. Nigel D27, that's me. And if at any point you want to send us an email, you want to ask a question that you don't feel you can ask right here, an afterthought or a suggestion, contact at croydontechcity.com. So again, so it's interesting. So people have different perspectives of Croydon. Historically speaking, especially if you're local, you tend to, in the past, you were probably slightly more negative in your opinion towards Croydon, or maybe you just don't have an opinion at all. So one thing that I like starting off with is just a few did you know facts. So the one that most people tend to know, Croydon's really well connected. So that means 11 minutes to, or 12 minutes to London Bridge, 16 minutes to Victoria, I think it's like 34 minutes to King's Cross, 28 minutes or something like that to Brighton, 15 minutes to Gatwick. I can keep churning out these stats almost non-stop if you don't challenge me to stop. But again, the idea is, so just setting this context for where is this tech cluster growing, Croydon is very well connected. And I suspect I'm probably converted there as well, just to give you that idea. Now, put your hands up if you've not heard about Westfield moving to Croydon. Okay, so that's fair enough. So Westfield, so presumably everyone knows Westfield, super shopping centres, Shepherd's Bush, Stratford. So Westfield have announced that their southern shopping centre is going to be built in Croydon. Now we were to look out the window and we could see through that building over there. You see there's a shopping centre which is called the Whitgift Centre. If anyone's been on a tour with us or anything like that, we'll point this out throughout. But so Westfield are coming and they're literally investing £2.5 million to build a shopping centre about 150 metres in that direction. Croydon has lots of companies headquartered already, nothing to do with tech. That varies from the A.S. Watson Group, who owns Superdrug and Perkins Store and things like that. EDF Energy have moved here, Moff McDonald, The Body Shop. There's about 5 other big ones out there. But again, Croydon already has a lot of business. It's just that for some reason people don't talk or know about it. Croydon has a growing art scene. So if you read, I can't remember if it was CAM or it was another one like that, somebody referred to Croydon as the capital's new urban art scene. Now that is a curious thing, but if you actually look around the town, especially as you're walking down that direction, you'll see there's lots of urban art going on. It's driven predominantly by a couple of small groups, most notably Rise Gallery. But if you were interested in going and seeing Banksy paintings hanging up in a gallery, if you were interested in going and seeing There's a 70-metre mural, which would be the second biggest mural in the whole of Europe, painted inside of one of Croydon's buildings. Again, it's like there's this exciting cultural revival going on in Croydon. This is an older picture now. They're finding a new space, but Croydon used to have a rooftop. Over the summer, there was a rooftop cinema out there. So people, last time I asked them where they thought that was, they said Peckham. I laugh in Peckham's face and say that was Croydon. So you've got options there. There's cool and trendy cafes popping up, so that's Matthew's Yard. There's another art scene. Who knows Box Park? So if you guys were to look out the window after here, so Box Park is, so think trendy combined with shipping containers and retail and food and stuff, and you get a Box Park offering. Now, if you look down there, you'll see that there are 40 shipping containers literally built into the construction, and that is going to be Box Park's biggest and South London kind of centre. So it actually opens in a month, so please do come back after a month, but there's loads of food offerings. Quite literally, it's going to be a really exciting little buzzing hub right next to East Croydon. Now let's start talking about tech. So you might have seen recently that, well, if you've been following us for the last few years, you've seen that Croydon actually has already said a lot of tech talent. And in fact, if you look at the statistics, there are over 1,000 tech businesses registered to the Croydon area. Now here is just a selection of logos that make up some of those statistics. A lot of them are, well, some of them are based in this building, some of them are based in public workspaces. What's interesting about Croydon is that a lot of those buildings contain these guys, but it takes a bit of banging on the woodwork to get them to come out and say hello. But the fact is there is loads of tech talent. And in fact, you're seeing some of it just here in this room today. This is the first lunchtime event that I'm speaking at, and look at how many people have come out from it who are interested in this community already. You would have seen that Croydon tech often makes the news. So I think, I was trying to count this the other day, I lost count at the 200th article, which we had either written or had been written about us in different papers. There is a bit of a skew towards like local journalism, but that is, I'll come back to why that is in a moment. But again, so Croydon is an exciting place to be. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of buzz. Most recently, you would have seen this one potentially 3 weeks ago. So an independent firm, so we haven't bribed any of these people whatsoever. In fact, I don't even think we know who the company that did this research is. But Croydon has the fastest growing economy in the whole of the UK by region. Now, that is an interesting fact in itself. And the truth is that as well as all the Westfield things and stuff like that, there is a tech narrative throughout there as well. And like I said, whilst Croydon Tech City, whilst the workspaces, whilst the council all play a role in stewarding that community, there is a drive of tech people, like normal people, driving that growth around here. This is just a picture of, so that's a different event, various workspaces. When I talk about how Croydon Tech City has grown this, we've drawn inspiration from other clusters, and that includes everyone from San Francisco to Israel to all the other places, to a variety of other places. And down there, actually in the bottom right, that was Matt Hancock. So Matt Hancock's a cabinet minister who visited us in January, and when he left, the article that he wrote about us the next day opened with the line, Croydon Tech City is the blueprint for the future. And for us, that is not just Croydon Tech City, but it is the community that is driving this. Croydon Tech City couldn't do any of this without the people who engage with us, and that's kind of what I want to talk to you guys about today. And that is a picture of Sussex Innovation, where I guess you guys know where that is. So in terms of what is Croydon Tech City doing, so I gave you that line about championing and inspiring tech opportunities and things like that. But if I'm getting a little bit more boring, a little bit more businessy, this is the line that I sometimes use. It is building a sustainable technology ecosystem in South London. And the bit that I caveat when I talk about this, that it benefits local people and local businesses. So when I start talking about the Croydon Tech City story, the thing is there is a big focus on, this shouldn't be just an initiative which brings new people here, and it just kind of works with that mobility of tech companies and moving around London. Whilst we want people to come to Croydon, we're also really focused on how do we get opportunities to local people. And in fact, when we started this 4 years ago, we are just, in fact we were and we still are basically a community group. And we had an idea for this, and we've worked with local people. It's all around championing local people, local children, local businesses, and making sure that when we build this ecosystem here, it can really deliver against that. Now, this was actually presented in the second talk that I ever gave at Croydon Tech City, so in October 2012. And so this is kind of like at the bottom line of what we wanted to happen in Croydon. We want people to, so this basically just represents loosely what kind of journey a tech company could go through. Somebody has to have an idea. Now, like I said, in our minds, that somebody could be anybody, but we very much wanted local people to feel that they could be, firstly, inspired to have an idea, and feel that there was a world where they could actually build that. It didn't have to be San Francisco, where you want to build your company. We could bring opportunities to them here, and then that's how we started growing this thing. Building so the first steps, so we define that as finding your original team, you know, getting those first steps in place to start your business, getting into a startup stage. So, you know, a lot of startups aren't quite making money yet, but they all have viable products, and they're all trying to use those products to go and hit that last step, which is, I refer to it as business as usual, but the idea is that that's where it is your business, that's where it is providing you income, that is where you're creating jobs and you're creating growth and things like that. Now, the idea, again, so the original idea was to be able to facilitate that chain. And firstly, whilst we champion it, what we do is we work with loads of people across the borough to actually help those things happen. And I'm going to talk about those as we go through the talk today. Again, this is what I give to, this is my boring business version, so when I'm talking to people about like strategy and things like that, we sometimes refer to it in this kind of quadrant approach. I'm not going to go through this slide here right now, except to tell you, because this is how I'm going to explain how you can get involved today. We divide what we do in terms of environment and culture. So how do we facilitate the right, how can we, as a community, create the right place where tech skills, tech culture, where people feel they can get involved, where it represents kind of like the diversity which is natural to Croydon. All these subjects, how can we create that world where people feel that they can get involved? How do we share kind of like this new Croydon world with all these new opportunities, like all the digital stuff that's going on? The business support section is helping people make it up that chain. So there was obviously a different type of support required, from enabling people to find their first team and write their first business plan versus raising seed investments and so on. And the ultimate aim is that we want this to take place in Croydon. The bottom left there, so I'm definitely going to talk about this. This is all around our approach where we, as well as adults, we're very big on supporting the borough's young people. We work to deliver tech skills and create a talent pipeline from children as young as 5 all the way up until kind of apprentice ages. And then the last section there is about how do we support people, promote the borough, how can you find out more, and so on. So, environment, I failed to take into account how small this would be on this screen, so sorry if you guys are going to squint. I'm going to say all the stuff on there anyway. So like I said, so in the environment and culture section, so if you were ever going to interact with Croydon Tech City, this is probably the most likely place you're going to do it. And again, when I say Croydon Tech City there, I'm not really referring to myself and kind of like the core team. I'm talking about the wider community, because this isn't just a narrative about us as an organisation, this is a narrative about Croydon. Now, when we started in 2012, there was probably, by my count, that we could find maybe 7 or 8 tech events, and they were just socials happening in Croydon for that kind of tech community. And so when I'm giving that idea of the growth so far, bear in mind by the end of this year, there's going to be over 200. So that is a significant amount of growth. And the idea is that we want, so firstly, we run a bunch of events ourselves. So our most well-known one is all around, but you'll find out about it next month if you're on the newsletter. It's on a Thursday, a Thursday every month. We basically just started showing people on a stage, here is a successful Croydon person. They've either made it, or they're trying to make it, or they tried to make it and failed. But the idea is they can firstly show anyone in Croydon that they can do it themselves. But then for the people who aren't Croydoners, you know, it's also an interesting story because you can come and learn from those type of guys. Now in this world where there are so many more events, you know, we are actually now, we personally run the minority of those events. And this is where you see things like, you know, today's event, whilst I'm the guy talking to you, this is a Sussex Innovation event. There are people all across the borough and all across the tech community now who now feel that they can run events, and we will tell everyone that your event is running for free. Like, you literally just say, hey, we're running a tech event, and we put it on the newsletter. And again, so in those terms over how can you join in with this kind of narrative? How can you support us go from 7 to 200 events to 400 events. Who knows how quickly we can double those things. This is one of the things which we really try and promote to people. Now the events, they don't have to be startup focused. So there are socials that run right now. Again, so we organise one of the socials, but we don't organise all the socials. There are meetup groups happening. So there is everything from an AWS meetup to something called Digital Croydon. Now, Digital Croydon is focused specifically, for example, on tech people. They sit there and they talk about coding and stuff like that, and things which I can't even articulate to you enough because I'm not technical enough to explain it. But then they sit around here and that's what they talk about. They have speakers. If they can't find a speaker, we will help them do that. If you have an event and you were looking for a speaker, we will help you find that speaker. Luckily, we have loads of people who just want to give back to the community. But again, the idea is lots of different events. Think of all the things that happen on Meetup that happen in central London. Like, why can they not happen down here? We have thousands of tech people. If you feel like there's an event that you could run, we invite you to run that. And so people always ask us about hackathons and so on. So there is an idea out there for a hackathon that might run early next year. If you work in that industry, if you have any influence, or if you want to run those type of things, again, please let us know because we want to find people who are happy to run events like that. I'm going to talk about the workshops and education stuff in the next section, but actually I should be clicking as I go through this because there's pictures. But also there is a selection of, like I said, we're really invested in not just the kind of business side of tech, but what do you do when you work in tech but you live here, or what do you do after work? So there's a lot of cultural promotion. So if you sign up to our newsletter, this is a lot of stuff that you can find out there. Now, sorry, I should have been clicking, or I should have automated these things, but you can just see here, this was a meetup, I think, probably about 2 years ago. And so that is just Johnny. He's one of the other people. He was an alternative to me. He's another Croydon Tech City person. If you read articles, he's probably the guy writing the articles. Again, so that is just a room of, basically, it's like a selection of people in this room. And on that one, that was one of the startup events. This is Women in Tech. So Sarah, she's the final part of Croydon Tech City. She's a huge advocate for diversity and women in tech type angles.
The lady who invented the PIN code for the ATM. Believe it.
I don't know if she's done anything like that,
Yeah,
but so she almost has a London facing view. And again, so that is our annual Women in Tech event that we do every May. And again, like I said, we want people to see that you don't have to be like some stereotypical bloke, kind of, Mark Zuckerberg type who has to move to San Francisco. There are people who reflect everybody in this room. People who reflect normal people, normal Croydon, in every term of diversity, and we're really big on promoting that. In fact, I think as well as women in tech, we also have a pretty good ethnicity diversity in our speakers. Also age. We've had on one stage, I remember 2 years ago, we had a 67-year-old guy who created an app that he wanted to help people learn how to write, and we had a 17-year-old kid who'd written an app around cookery books because he was going to university and he didn't know how to cook. And so again, just showing these people that there was the opportunity to grow those companies here as well. That is a random Croydon 3D scanning company, 3D printing, another random picture. This was a social, so we took over Croydon's rooftop cinema over the summer, and we had basically a huge party. So there were hundreds of people on a rooftop there. Natterbox actually came and brought their Tesla up there. A Croydon company has a Tesla. That's a fully branded Tesla. That blew my mind when I heard about it. Maybe not everyone here, but it blew my mind. And again, so it was just cool to see Croydon's tech just up on the stage. And yeah, so that's kind of like, if you were interested, I'll sum this all up again, but we want people to run events. We want people to come to events. Now, like I said, at the core of it though, we have to be able to support the business growth. And so we've come very much from this community angle. Croydon Tech City was, and still basically is, an unfunded organisation that relies on you guys getting involved to drive this growth. And so some of the ways that we do it. So if you were sitting there saying, hey, we're not sure, I've got an idea, but I don't have a clue what the next step is, we have a homegrown community of mentors who are quite willing to just sit down, probably over a pint or a coffee or something like that, and just tell you, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? When you're talking about, how do you design your first product life cycle and so on, there are options to just go to the community at large and just have informal chats. That extends to like career advice and how do you build specific, what type of coding should you learn and so on. I've talked about the startup events, so events like our Thursday event, events like this. I'm sure Saffron will be sharing other events with you guys later on, so read their newsletter for the type of kind of like professional development type opportunities in Croydon. Croydon Tech City, so whilst we used to run something which I don't put up there anymore, just checking, called the Croydon Tech City MBA. Now we stopped saying that because it's not an MBA and people thought they were getting an MBA. I don't know why they thought I could give them an MBA. But the idea was that we wanted people to be able to say, well, if we're running a business, you know, what do you not know that you don't know? And when you find out what you don't know, how can you begin to explore the development of those skills? So we started going to companies in Croydon, so like I said, local businesses. We went to the borough's biggest accounting firm, and they now run regular how to run business planning workshops. They do accounting advice. They will sit down and donate their time to you just for that. We have companies coming down from London, so people like Kilburn and Strode, so a European-focused IP tech law firm, but they now come and run surgeries in Croydon and so on. We have business angels and investors who, whilst we haven't secured them to come down all the time, because it's probably a bit early for that in the overall story, they will come down, they will teach you how to pitch to business angels and so on. Introduction to social media, introduction to any number of business practices that you can think of. People in Croydon will run this, businesses are running this here, and again, there's a chance for you to do business with them and them to do business with you, and that's one thing that we're really keen on. We recommend that if you wanted to get involved in the Croydon scene, but you're just looking for that professional interaction and you want it more one-on-one, I would suggest speaking to the workspaces. So speak to Saffron, speak to Ben. You know, these are the guys who can tell you what's going on here. They can give you business advice. We are, so Sussex Innovation, Croydon Innovation is a partner with Croydon Tech City, but we try and promote lots of other opportunities as well. So if you want, if you think there's anything missing, you should let us know. And if we can't provide it or our partners can't provide it, which is to say local workspaces and all, please let us know. And you know, Croydon Tech City will help if we can, or connect you to, for example, Croydon Council if it's something that they can help with, or to, I don't know, to any number of firms where we can probably help you move along. Needing a larger space, so one of the interesting things about Croydon, so in addition to that 2.5 billion I talked about for Westfield, I saw the Times quoted figure saying there's £5 billion worth of investment being poured into Croydon over the next 6 years or something like that. Now, to be honest, I don't think, well, I can't quite comprehend exactly what £5 billion looks like, but I can tell you that the property developers, so when you turn around, like, again, I'm creating stats where I don't know 100% what the source is, but I'm going to say it anyway because it sounds cool. They said that at its peak, Croydon will have 25 cranes operating in just that view over there at any one point in time. Now, even if that figure is double what the truth will be, there are buildings of all different shapes and sizes being constructed around you. And these guys, they want to work with the tech community. So we are more than happy to try and make those connections. We will introduce you to the right people, or at the very least, they will come and talk to our community. And then the last thing on there, so in addition to those kind of like community mentorings and things like that, if you sign up to this newsletter, you'll see opportunities for introduction to coding workshops, introduction to agile development workshops. That one in particular at the end there. So it's really strange. So I talk about Croydon Talent. There's a couple of guys, and they used to work for Gumtree. They're like the senior development teams. And there's a couple of them. I don't know why they chose Croydon to live in, but again, there's some of that hidden Croydon talent. And they said at some point they were just like, we want to run community workshops to help Croydon people develop Agile and Scrum development skills, which is a methodology developed in tech, for those who don't know. So the idea is once a month they run that, 15 people come along, 15 people learn a whole new type of skill set, and if you wanted to run that, or if you wanted to be part of that, that is the type of thing which we champion. If you wanted to, like I said, run or be part of that, we really want you to be, we really would like to hear from you. So that guy sitting down there, he's one of the guys who runs that workshop. Here are just some more local tech business people, and another one. So that guy there runs a startup around family trees and stuff. Now the Future Tech City piece. Not all business communities are that interested when I start talking about our Skids program. But the thing is, because we're so behind it, I almost don't care if people don't want to hear it. I'm going to say it anyway. So I apologize to those who don't want to hear about it. Now the fact of it is, so we've talked about all these skills for adults and so on, but there's two angles of coming at this. There is the fact that tech opportunities and employment opportunities, not just for the tech industry itself, are going to be dependent on the development of STEM skills, as in the ability to those do build into tech and engineering and maths, which is what it stands for. But also the analytical deductive thinking processes actually influence a whole variety of skills. So on one hand, you've got like, you need the youth of today to develop these types of skills. On the other hand, if we can create a talent pipeline of kids coming through with these skills, we can support Croydon businesses to both employ them, but also to be able to flourish with that new tech talent. So when we're talking about Future Tech City, this is an initiative that we run, so supporting students to understand and aspire to technology and related careers. Now, effectively, like I said, it's all about talent pipelines. Now, there are, this is again a rough figure, I think there's something like 40,000 kids in education in Croydon at any one point in time. So that's quite, we're the biggest borough, so I guess you're going to get a lot of kids there as well. And so how do we go about supporting these kids to develop STEM skills and knowledge of the tech industry? Well, the way that we basically started doing that, we were actually inspired by a smaller charity which came up with the idea early on when they started working with Co-Club. So who knows what Co-Club is? Okay, well, so Co-Club supports kids between the age of 5 and 11 to develop the basic understandings of kind of like STEM and analytical thinking. So basically we said, okay, there are something like 96 primary schools in Croydon. How are we going to, we want a Co-Club to be in each one of those. So Co-Club for Southeast London and work with it, and Croydon Tech City, we run regular events, imagine this, but it's all teachers and schools and parents and governors, and we basically just advocate this is how you can get tech and STEM opportunities for your kids. When you need a volunteer to run it, we obviously have an abundance of people who have got STEM skills, and so we're very big on how do you convert our business community into volunteers, whilst also offering those volunteers something in return. So we're toying with the idea of saying to startups, if you volunteer to help schools develop these STEM skills and to run co-clubs, we will give you unique pitching opportunities, we will give you unique training opportunities, and therefore there's that kind of quid pro quo type aspect to it as well. We're trying to get apps for good into all the secondary schools and colleges, so there's something like, I want to say 35, this number changes because they seem to merge and unmerge and I can't keep track of it. But again, so we're trying to get secondary school people into some of those skills so they can start developing the right knowledge of, so they can potentially be working in the industry. We run something called the Young Croydon Tech City Network. So the Young Croydon Tech City Network, what we found was we invited a group of 10 kids along to an event like this. And kind of what happened was, they turned up, they sat in the corner of at the back of the room. Whenever they had a question, they would all whisper to each other, and this one girl, who I guess was the loudmouth, would put her hand up, and she would ask the question on behalf of the group. And then at the end, during the networking, they sat quietly until they saw me, and then they literally ran over, and were just like, what do we do? And so what we decided at that point was that you need a different environment for these kids. So the Young Croydon Tech City Network, imagine this, but instead of being 60 adults to 10 kids, it's 10 adults to 60 students. And all of the colleges and basically GCSE age brackets, they're allowed to send along 10 kids twice a year to an event. These kids, we don't call it a careers event, we don't call it anything, we basically call it a conference. They turn up, they get a name badge, there are waiters walking around with like little glasses of champagne flutes filled with orange juice. And the idea is that these waiters are actually tech mentors. But the thing is, when it's a waiter, the kids aren't scared to talk to them. It's just a dude asking about how did they, like why are they in that room. Normally we do coloured dots depending on your skills. The kids have to choose a dot for they think they'd like to be a salesperson. They think they'd like to be a tech person. They think they have an idea. They think they, whatever it is, the idea is there's a mentor wondering out who they can speak to. And then on the stage we have a variety of different speakers. I can't remember if I'm going to, oh, that's one of the Young Croydon Tech City events there. And on the stage we have a variety of speakers who represent kind of like, I think we have a more diverse range of speakers than what might be a bit of a cliche. We have everything, we have gender balances, we have, like I said, the ethnicity balances, and we have people who are at the start of the journey, at the end of the journey. We have people who are in a career working for somebody else, and that is, we want these kids to be inspired to work in this world. And all around the edges we have like the 3D printing companies, the augmented reality companies, the gaming guys. We try and throw in business-to-business stuff, but the kids don't seem to care. But the idea is that we're just trying to open up their eyes, because I've got one slide in here because it's brand new. There's also one last thing to talk about there, which is this year we're piloting the Croydon Tech City traineeship and apprenticeship. So we have got this business community, we've got this kind of growing community of schools, and we basically went out to a tech guy and we're like, design us a cutting edge tech course, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this to bridge that final gap. And therefore the businesses will hopefully end up with a better level of talent, the kids will end up with, you know, more understanding of the industry, maybe there's a longer term thing going on there. And again, so that is a pilot which if you follow us over the next year, you'll find out more about. Last thing, so that last quote at the bottom was about the promotion and the things like that. So already had, Croydon already gets a decent amount of following when it comes to tech stuff. But if you want to get involved, if you want to share our stuff, we obviously would love for you to share it. If you want to tweet about it, if you want to do anything which basically promotes this type of thing and you would like us to help you, please let us know. For people who, you know, you might now be aware that Croydon is a tech cluster, but if you want more information, especially in a more businessy context, so Croydon Tech City and the council can provide you with a host of statistics. I might even throw a partner into it just by pointing her out over there. So if you were interested in finding out actual statistics about Croydon property prices, Croydon, well, basically anything that I'm talking about but in numbers, we can provide that for you as well. And I always try and end my talks before we go to the Q&A on this particular thought. So everything that I've told you about right now, which I hope you'll agree is kind of exciting, like, you know, it's something which is being grown by Croydon people, for Croydon people. That's something that we're never going to stop trying to do. For me personally, as a Croydon, as somebody born in Croydon, you know, it's very important for us to keep the Croydon narrative and Croydon theme going in this. But always remember the fact that if this is our kind of journey, and let's say where are we right now? People are tempted to be like, oh, Croydon is, like, you know, challenging East London, and I'm like, I don't. Well, personally, when people ask me, are we taking on East London? I say not really. Firstly, I don't think it's a competitive game anyway. But secondly, even if it were, the kind of idea is, so if you think about the amount of people who know about Croydon Tech City right now, the way that I judge this personally is by saying, look at the readership of the Citizen. So the Croydon Citizen is it's interesting, it was an online publication, which has gone backwards into print. It's over, there's a copy of it over there in the corner. Now, it is probably the best way of just keeping up to date with Croydon people's views of Croydon things. So it's everything from economics to art, tech. But let's say that the majority of people engaged in this world is represented by that readership. The Croydon Citizen says that their readership is probably around 35,000. So there are 365,000 people living in the borough. I tell you, get up to that 500,000 figure if you just start talking about professionals working here. If you include all those logistics that I started off by talking about, you know, the actual reach, like, you know, we're still very early on in this growth journey, if it keeps going the way that it is. And in fact, I would actually place us, when I'm talking about it, I think we're somewhere there. Yes. We're just entering into that growth. And as always, it's like, you know, it's Croydon's, I've always said, for me anyway, Croydon isn't about if it will grow, it's how it will grow. There's nothing that we can stop. Nothing anyone in this room can do to stop Croydon growing. But we can help work out, you know, how do we get those opportunities and how do we participate in it. So that's what we're kind of inviting you to get involved in. And as a summary of the ways to get involved, sign up to the newsletter. That should probably be the minimum of anything does. So croydontechcity.com. Attend events, start your own events. Come along and get a feel for where this community is at the moment. Volunteer to be a mentor, find a mentor, you know, come and meet the workspaces, come along to events like this. If you think there's anything that you're not sure about, get in touch. If you want to get involved, or if you are a parent, or if you are a teacher, or anything to do with the Future Tech thing, if you would like to consider taking on an apprentice, because there's lots of advantages to that in general anyway, let us know then. And like I said, share this story. And if you have any suggestions, like I said, drop us an email. We're very open to how we work. The Croydon story started by us just looking around Croydon and saying, what can we build? It grew through looking at other clusters and saying, how did they grow at this point in their maturity? What can we learn from it? But there is definitely a personality that different clusters develop, and the personality is generated by us, the wide us. So anyway, Saffron, you wanted me to start the Q&A just before quarter two.
Fantastic.
So, thoughts, questions, criticisms, tough things that I might not want to answer, but you've got me on the spot anyway. Anything?
Yes, so you had a picture there of the British consulate in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Can you speak a bit more about in
So when I talk about the community group angle, so Croydon, everything that you've heard so far, Croydon Tech City basically has no budget. There's no one paid to do any of this stuff. Everything that we've done has been driven by the energy of local people. So we have done international, we've started doing the international development type things. So you're right, so there was the San Francisco picture there as well. We've been to Tel Aviv, some of the Australian type of divisions. Now, if I'm being completely honest, that's because when I'm traveling myself, as in like on holiday or business, I basically will just go and meet people. And we're quite lucky that we're good connections, that where people are willing to make the intro, and we're lucky that my girlfriend is patient enough that I can take half a day out of our holiday for me to go and meet with a government person in San Francisco. And then the type of thing, so we sit there and we basically theorize over how can Croydon people get access to San Francisco opportunities, and vice versa. There was a really weird moment in the San Francisco meeting where with one of the government officials, she actually said, so we'd like to look at your policies because we want to, there's an area of San Francisco where we're not sure what to do, and apparently there's a parallel between Croydon of old and this area. And also I was advising someone in San Francisco over how they could learn from Croydon. Again, it was just one of those, there's been lots of bizarre moments in this Croydon tech journey. But what I'd say is most of it has come just from that kind of energy of local people. In San Francisco there are 3 or 4 people who used to be part of the Croydon world, not necessarily the Croydon tech world, who work for companies out there. So there's a Croydon guy where, again, I just know him socially, but he's just raised $2 million in San Francisco. But when he comes back here, he'll give a talk. There was a kid who used to live in Birmingham, which is on the outskirts of Croydon. He was selected from all the kids in the world in 2013 to be part of the Teal Fellowship. So 20 kids picked from around the world and given $100,000 each to basically do whatever they want. And because there's a good mobility of Croydon people, it means that we've really benefited from that. So depending on, I'm not sure if I'll answer your question or not, but that's kind of the international scope that we're going through. What's, oh no, Ian.
I'm sure you're going to ask me. Sorry, Ian Marlin. My question really is, how do you see Croydon Tech City moving on into the future over a sort of 20-year timescale? And you're probably aware my interest is in a physical manifestation such as a.
And when you say Croydon Tech City, do you mean the organisation?
No, Croydon Tech City as a concept and community.
As a cluster, yeah. So people ask this question a lot, and it's actually quite hard to describe what is the vision, because I can tell you that. So from these other visits to other clusters, some of them very advanced, some of them much smaller. What I can tell you is that all of the clusters envelope those 4 different aspects that we have there. There's ways for people to develop skills, there's ways to develop communities, and there's all these, and everything that I talked about today, we think is encompassed by all 10 clusters. But then the differences come in, they seem to come in like, the natural culture of an area. So anyone who's from Croydon would probably argue that Croydon has its own kind of like mini culture, which might mean that if we continue to grow this cluster as a representative of local cultures, of people moving here, of people who naturally, of kind of like, native Croydon residents, for lack of a better term, I would hope that we have an ecosystem which is like that, but larger, more workspaces, more tech companies, more people inspired to start those companies and work locally. More of those companies being able to find access to the capital, to the talent, and all those type of things, so that instead of saying, hey, we have to relocate to San Francisco to get the money, they might be able to say, we can actually keep building here. So again, it's hard to entirely describe, but that's what I would hope. A stewarding of the same vibe and community, but on a larger scale.
So I think you said that you have mentors. So how do you get connected with mentors?
So there's many different ways of doing it. You can just turn up to an event and there are normally the mentors running around. Or you can go on the website and, I can't remember the exact URL, but if there isn't a link to it or you can't find the right mentor, just go to contact@croydonfixing.com and somebody will be back in touch with you over what are the possibilities. Hello.
Thank you for inviting us to the event. there is talk about skill shortages within the digital industry, but still we have stubbornly high youth unemployment within the borough, well, within London inner cities, not only Croydon but all the boroughs. How can we actually match those talented young people to meet the skill shortages? Because they, especially young people who are not aware of the opportunities that's being created in the digital industries.
I completely agree. And so, I mean, like I said, we have this heavy focus on supporting young people to get involved in this world. I mean, that is the future of the economy and the future of them as individuals is kind of dependent on at least being aware of those opportunities. So, I mean, I don't know, what I might say is, my response is what Croydon Tech City can do is that when we put, like I said, when we put people on stages, you know, they aren't just to inspire adults, it's to inspire anyone. Like, anyone can get into this role. But one of the biggest blockers to getting into the tech world is realizing just how accessible it is, and also like the range of careers involved there. You don't have to just be some kind of super coder type person. Tech companies have marketing people, design people, finance people, like HR people. Like, to have a proper tech business, you need to have all of the skills that a normal company would have. And so our way of doing that is, so you'll have seen like we did a range of articles. Actually, I can't remember when we did it, but we basically interviewed all different types of people who work in a tech company. And so we just published those articles so we could share it with, I mean, for us, we could profile Croydon tech talent, but then also we were hoping that people could feel like they could be that person. And then as for actual, like, dealing with the actual kind of, the actual unemployment issues, I mean, I don't think Croydon Tech City can solve that. The things that we can do is we can work with people if they have an idea how to solve that, and we have an opportunity because we have a highly engaged business community who, if they're talking to us, they probably want to, they're kind of like ethically aligned with us anyway. And if we have the school communities or if somebody has access to those things, I don't know why we wouldn't try and bring them together. But so far, no one suggested that to us, so we haven't done it. Also, you know, let's find out. This takes quite a lot of time to do all this stuff, and like I said, it's basically second jobs.
So is there contribution from Croydon Council? Do they reach out to the schools for you?
They do when they can. I think like so. I mean,
Well, it shouldn't be for you though. It's for the whole of Croydon, though, surely.
I agree. Like I don't want to get too political in this particular in a public remit over how I think these things should grow or could grow. I mean, what I can say is that they are aware of what we do, and when people can help, they do help. Again, like I would personally say that if you fast forward, say, hopefully not into the too far distant future and stuff like that, but there are already structures coming into place with how we can work better with the council and so on. We haven't addressed the education one yet, but I think we're lucky that we have a very open council, so they're open to working with us in new ways, and we do need to, we need to find that there's still work to be done, but the potential is there.
Yeah, I think perhaps you weren't here when we were talking about Future Tech City, which is one of the pivotal. Yeah, the reaching out to the schools is quite a.
Yeah, I mean, most of the connections there come from either teachers actually getting in touch with us themselves or parents, because parents hear about what we're doing, they're like, why is my school not doing this? And then I tell you, all we basically do is facilitate the introduction between co-club in primary school examples and potentially a volunteer and the school, obviously, and so that's how that kind of works anyway.
Yeah, because it's not just seeing you in front, because there's some young people have a misconception that the tech city only employ white males, where women and BMEs are not included.
Yeah.
And I think it's a misconception. So seeing you and bringing this in, because when you look at figures, you look at the skills funded agencies research, we look in women and BME young people are underrepresented in the tech industry.
What I say when people say that is, yes, I mean, there's no denying there is an industry issue with this type of thing. But if you came to a Croydon Tech City event, like in one of the evenings, in fact, we had a journalist from The Economist just come along, and his quote was that he's never seen a more diverse community, at least from the event that he attended. And that's something I think it's very important to us to maintain that. That is, if I was to be like, it's in our DNA, that's one of the things which we're very passionate about. You know, if this Croydon Tech Cluster is to be successful, yes, it needs to invite more people in. Yes, it needs to engage with Croydon people who normally just jump on a train and disappear. Like, we need to engage with Croydon people, but it has to keep representing the community that we're from. Otherwise, I don't know what. Well, otherwise, it's not as it isn't achieving its potential. That could be my opinion, but that's what I think.
Council's making 5 billion available. Is it going to be for the new companies coming in, or is there money earmarked for the start-ups in Croydon?
Are you talking about the 5 billion figure that I quoted earlier?
Yeah, but also it was quoted at the conference as well by the council themselves.
That 5 billion is not investment in the tech centre. That is including all the new schools they're building, investment in housing, and investment in infrastructure to support what's going on. And that, I believe, is from 2015 to 2020.
Say where it's going again, where it's being distributed.
So it's going into schools, infrastructure, etc. to support what's
again,
happening in Croydon. It's not 5 billion in the
let's say
tech sector.
Right.
I would say this is not the forum to get into the details of that, but when they talk about 5 billion figures and stuff, that's not like somebody's got 5 billion cash and they're just like putting it somewhere. That's representative of, for example, Westfield. 2.5 of that billion is building the Westfield. That's got nothing to do with anything other than Westfield doing it. So when you see figures like that, I'd encourage you to just go look exactly what that means, because it's not normally something where you can just go out and grab it and to apply for it. It's other.
I think because you mentioned it at your conference, that's why.
Yeah, I did. It's just to give you the idea, because even if you forget the tech stuff, £5 billion over just this bit here, you know, 30,000 new homes being built over this general bit here, or 30,000 new people.
Earmarked for the tech cities and the tech companies and startups? What kind of figures earmarked if you want them to grow to such a degree?
I mean, I don't have any money to market.
You want to be like Silicon Valley, but you need money.
That figure represents investment that's coming from a number of different public and private sectors. What the council has done specifically for tech is, I don't know if you're aware of the Tomorrow Tech Hub, that's on the High Street in Debbie's house. We have given them that space effectively for very, very little money for a couple of years. The GLA has funded them to fit out the space, and they are now there to, as almost as an incubator, to help advise any businesses that come and take the space there. Obviously, we can't give companies space for free, but we can give them resources to advise, and then obviously we're working very closely with Croydon Tech City to find ways that we can support, that we can build, and that we can grow into the future. So it's not that the council itself is putting £5 billion into the regeneration. This is public and private funding that's going into a whole host of projects.
I'm keen not to turn this into some kind of. These discussions get quite fierce, and maybe this is somewhere where we can release something later on, or somebody can write something about it. Just going back to the general tech stuff, are there any more questions? Maybe got time for one more, two more.
So I'm David Randall, and we're trying to get a tech cluster going in Southwest London. It's called Southwest London Cluster. And we're agog at what you're doing, because it is just amazing what you achieve. And I believe this is a blueprint, and what we're not interested in reinventing the wheel, we're interested in trying to copy you if possible. So my question is, so I'll explain that right at the very beginning. There's a lot of news, there was more news this morning about how difficult it is in the UK to overcome the cynicism, overcome the lack of, people's resistance to putting their money down to invest in business. And that if you really want to have a successful business, you've got no option, you've got to take the Silicon Valley. So I'm just thinking about that objectively. We've got in London, arguably, the financial capital of the world. So we're told. We've got 40 universities. That's not counting universities that are based elsewhere that have got bases in them. So what is the glass ceiling that we've hit that stops businesses being super successful?
So I have no research to answer that question, and again, this isn't even based on experience, because I think I said earlier, we've never had a company go on a multi-billion-pound fundraising from Croydon. But having said that, I don't know, I mean, there is an aspect of there which is just kind of like, culturally, what do people expect to happen? And I will say that when you are in San Francisco, and you're looking around Silicon Valley, you're speaking to those guys, you know, some of those guys are just like, ridiculously, it's more than motivated, there's always an expectation that they think it's just about to happen. And maybe there's an argument that we don't have as much of it here. But having said that, and this is based on experience, there are loads of companies who definitely have potential. Maybe there's not as many people. And if you speak to angels, and you speak, so it's not on there yet because we haven't released this type of thing, but so we're trying to build together like a group of angels that we can release in the community every now and again. And what they say is that they can't find the opportunities. Now, I don't know how true that is yet, and I don't know how we show into that. But yeah, I mean, just anecdotally, it's what people say. And the way that we're going to be addressing that is, so through that kind of chain of how we support people grow. One of the biggest steps is people, in fact, we get one of the most common questions is, can we introduce them to a VC, a venture capitalist? And I then go back and say, what is a VC? And they often don't have a clue what that is. They just know that the word's associated with money. And they think they need it, and they think they deserve it, and all those kind of things. And so we try and get those guys and convert them into a format where they can articulate, they can work out which is the finance that they need to go for. So in the last year, in addition to having a seed business angel come and talk, we've had somebody from there has been in Croydon a investment group who operate across the country. We've had seeders come and talk about equity crowdfunding type things. And so we're very big on just showing people these are the different options. And then when they're at the stage when they can take that option, whether it is going to seeders, whether it is helping seeders operate here, would be a better way of describing it, whether it is introducing them to a business angel, we need to make sure that people know that that is something that can happen here. We don't want to be sitting here thinking it's only a ticking clock until I go to San Francisco. We need to be able to show people this is possible in Croydon. And one of the things which I think we will probably be able to do, I'm generally kind of confident in everything, but I do feel strongly that if we were to say, in some time in the next 12 months, here is a proper pitching event with a proper angel and things like that, people will come to Croydon looking for that opportunity, and we want people to come to Croydon looking for opportunities. And we're quite happy to tell people, we're quite open. Everything I've told you, like I'm not holding anything back or hiding anything. As soon as that becomes a feasible option, we will tell people about it so they know they can get it in Croydon. And as you're growing as you're growing stuff in Kingston, what I'd say is like that communication really engages the people. Like, that if you can set an expectation over this is possible now, this will be possible or could be possible if we work together, that's where I think a lot of the 4 years of energy has come from. Is that me done?
Steve, thank you very much, Nigel. Not to waste your time, so it's just over an hour. You may have had, I don't think many people were eating their lunch, but I'm sure Nigel will be here to discuss things and a little bit networking afterwards. But we do this on the third Wednesday of every month. Next month we've got one of our members and one of our advisors talking about how to find your ideal customer, both marketers, so that should be a nice informative hour. The second Thursday of every month we have Digital Croydon here. Digital Croydon is, I think I'm going to have to say geeks for geeks. So it's really the coders and those types of people who don't get out there networking very often, and we hold a monthly event where they get to be informed, hear from thought leaders on subjects which are very interesting to them. And we have also, we're sponsoring Croydon Business Excellence Award this month, the innovation category. So we're looking forward to going along to a fantastic evening in early October. So look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Cheers, thanks for coming down.
I think I'm gonna count.
Yeah, no, it's good.